Well, hi everybody. Today we're gonna start a conversation about how we can build fast and reliable web apps with progressive web apps. I decided to talk about this topic because I know that probably most of you are Angular developers, but anyway, I think this is a topic that can be really useful for everybody, mobile developers, web developers, that maybe are using other framework. So let's see what we can say today about the state of progressive web apps. As I said, my name is Laura Morinigo. I'm a developer advocate for Samsung Internet. I'm based in London. I'm currently in London right now. And I'm a Google developer expert for Firebase. That's my Twitter if you want to start the conversation, if you have any other questions after. So let's start a little bit with, first of all, I will introduce my friend Anna, right? So Anna is like an average user person that is trying to get the most of their phone, right? She's pretty happy. She is like trying to get a new app for her training. And actually, these kind of users make us really happy as developers. Currently, we are at such a good time to build new things in different platforms, web apps, even voice technologies or things like that, right? But anyway, even though that we have a really good time to be connected and everything, sometimes we have to deal with different stuff. For example, this message, right? I can completely relate with Anna when we are trying to go into any website and then suddenly we can have this message. And it's not only related with offline connection. Even though we're going to have 5G soon, we're still dealing with connection problems in so many places around the world. Or sometimes we don't have enough data in our phone and we're not able to have a really good experience with the app, right? So, and then we have the other option, right? So again, Anna is really excited about getting new apps and everything, but she doesn't have the latest device. So she got like a few apps already installed, and every time that is a new app over there, she is actually using her device resources, and suddenly she got this message: there is no more storage available. So at the end, what do we have? Yeah, Anna is not really happy using her phone. It's a user that can feel really frustrated. And at the end, if we have users that stop downloading our apps or stop using our apps, we are, as developers, are not pretty happy. So going back, I really like the web, and currently I'm working for Samsung Internet. So to let you know what's going on around Samsung Internet, we are a browser that is open source and is based in Chromium. So if you have the chance to test or have any feedback or any question around the browser, please reach out. But besides that, I'm sharing you these because as a web developer, what I like about the web is the chance that it is open to everybody. And the user doesn't actually need to download anything, and with just a URL, they can access to any content. So one thing that we should keep in mind is the user retention and engagement. If you are a developer that is more into the mobile development user, you probably know that it's pretty hard, first of all, to put your app into the store, and then second, keep your user engaged and let the user come back to your app and use it over and over again. At the end, we want to monetize our app, to share our content and everything. And in the other hand, if you're from more like a web background, you know that your content is available for everybody. But what's the difference then? Like, what is the advantage of using mobile or even web development? The other thing that we have to keep in mind, performance matters. One thing that can have users really frustrated is that if it's too slow to upload, if they see a lot of your offline message around, users get frustrated. So it's one of the main reasons that users stop using our apps. So with all this saying, let's go to progressive web apps. If you have the chance to see what's going on around progressive web apps, maybe this concept can be really familiar, but let's see what it means to have a progressive web app. It's just a website, or it has just it's just a website with an icon. What's going on? So the progressive web app concept is not like something new. Yeah, I was just saying quickly, I will do that briefly in 5 minutes, that basically we still have to keep in mind every time that we have connection problems. This is more often than we think. Not most of us have the latest devices, and we need users to be happy, actually, right? So we have that problem. The other problem is that every time that we need a user to download an app, actually a native app, we're going to use the phone resources. And it can happen this kind of stuff that I can completely relate with this message a few months ago, that we don't have enough insufficient storage, right? So, but in the other hand, we have the internet that is open to everybody. It's easy to reach out. And then now, I just want to mention that my background is I'm currently working with Samsung Internet. This is a open source Chromium engine, right? And as it's an open source project, if the community there have any comments or feedbacks or wants to know more about how we are building Samsung Internet, please let me know. And I'm telling these because I'm a web developer. So I would love to see more users having retention and engagement, right? And using my apps. But how can I kind of compete with the native apps? Or actually, is it a competition or not? So one of the main things that we have to keep in mind is that performance matters as web developers. Most of our users just stop using our apps or quit a website because it's too slow, right? So how we can actually focus into performance and try to bring a good experience into the browser. So there we go, we have progressive web apps. Thanks to progressive web apps, we are able to combine the native experience but into the browser. And we have different features that are related with progressive web apps. And one of the two things that we are going to focus today is to make a progressive web app fast and offline. Okay? And the other thing that I mentioned is why now? Because browsers are able to bring good features. You are able to access to hardware that before you were not able, and also the performance have been much better into the client side. And let's go where we were before, right? So what does it mean to build a PWA? Okay, it means to have an HTTPS, a manifest file, and then a service worker, right? We were talking that an HTTPS is necessary to build a secure app. And actually, currently at the moment, it's pretty simple to have our websites under HTTPS. But that's okay. The main thing that I want you to remember is that we need to have our website under HTTPS before going with service workers. And we're gonna see what is service workers. If we don't have our website under HTTPS, it's not gonna be possible to have a PWA, and it's not gonna be possible to actually use a service worker, okay? So we have HTTPS, and then I was talking about the manifest file, right? The manifest file is just a JSON file that we can add. It's gonna be the one that will be in charge of setting how your app is gonna look like, okay? And we have the service worker. That's the one that we were talking before. What is a service worker? It's a client-side proxy. It's the one that really allows the user to have the offline experience. And let's see how does it work. So the first thing, I hope that you're able to see my screen now, right?
Now it's okay.
Oh, okay, awesome. Otherwise, I will repeat it all over again, but that's fine, but just in case. So the first thing that we have to do is register, right? We have to register our service worker, and we're gonna do that with this small script that we're gonna add. So if the service worker is ready, right? What we are going to happen here with this small script is, okay, it's going to check if there is already a service worker registered, right? So we're going to be able to do that with Navigator, service worker controller. Otherwise, what is going to happen is going to register our service worker. As you can see here, the service worker is here under service worker.js, okay? So we're gonna see what's happening inside that file. At the end, it's just a JavaScript file, right? And we said to our website, where is our service worker.js with this scope, okay? So this is our very first script that we need to add into our app. And then let's see what is behind the service worker. Actually, what is the code in service worker.js? So the very first step is register, and then it's gonna install our service worker, right? So again, a service worker will we will implement the cache and also have the chance so the users can access to certain kind of files that are offline. So in this case, for example, what I will do is, okay, I have an app and I want to have my CSS and some SVGs offline, okay? So I'm just gonna add that into an array. And then here, this is our very first step. Here, as you can see, there is an event listener and it's installed, okay? So here, what is gonna happen is, okay, install this service worker and open that new cache and then add all those elements that I mentioned into the array URL to cache, okay? So there it's gonna catch like images or whatever you want. In this case, I just did a CSS and image, okay? So here we already installed it. And then here is when the magic happens, right? Because we already registered our service worker, we already installed our service worker, but then what we're gonna do with those files, right? Or what we can do to yield a better user experience. For example, when somebody is offline, how can I actually manage those requests? Using fetch. So again, the process is the same. We have install, and then instead of install, we have fetch, okay? So the magic is going to happen here when you do event respond with, right? Is there where you can actually manage your cache. In this case, it's pretty simple. What is just doing is, okay, if it's already hit, just return a response, and that's it, okay? Again, there are different ways to do a service worker, but what I'm showing you here is just simple steps. So you remember how it works. You can apply these into whatever framework you're using it. Even, for example, Angular Clay is able, had the chance to actually use service workers. But the most important thing here is that you actually make a concept clear about the process of installing a service worker, and then how you can use a service worker, and then what are the best practices. Okay, so we already did fetch, right? And then later is you have to activate. So after you already fetch, a few things can happen. For example, what happens if I update that image, right? Or there's all files in the cache that I don't want it anymore, right? So that's why activate works. You can check errors, you can check which kind of files you want to delete or something. So that's why you have to add activate, okay? Again, as you can see here, it's always an event listener. Before it was installed, then it was fetch, and then activate, right? And I have other good news for you. If you are like, okay, but I'm not gonna remember all that code or something like that, besides I'm gonna share anyway the slides, there are a lot of new tools around there that can help you to build a service worker easily. This is one of my favorites. This is called PWA Builder by Microsoft, right? What you have to do, if you already have your website host, you put your URL, and what is going to happen is just to give you feedback on what you need to do to build a PWA. And then at the end, if we have time, I can show you how it works, right? And it will give you the different options to build a service worker, and then you can just download the service worker.js, and that's it. Super simple. You can do this in 5 minutes. So again, going back to the users, we already know how to manage some offline capabilities using service workers, right? But anyway, there are a few things that we have to keep in mind. For example, every time that the user is offline, please show that they are offline or do something related with that. I know that this is something that it can sound really basic, but most of the users feel really frustrated when they are trying to interact with your app or your website, and then suddenly they miss everything that they were doing, right? Or something like that. So at least a little notification, hey, you are browsing in offline mode or something like that, or at least something that says to the user, hey, wait to your next connection or something, is a good practice, okay? And something else besides service workers and PWAs, there's this concept that I want to share with you that I check in Progressive Web App, one of the books that I'm going to share later. This is related with design, right? And it's something that I want you to keep in mind, because there's one thing that I found out that it was really useful, that we really care about performance. And also, sometimes the user can have a little bit of a different perception about what having a good performance means, right? What does it mean? Like, if you allow to the users at least try to interact while you're still loading content, the user will think that your app or your web app is performant, right? So this is something that is called show the content that matters sooner, right? For example, in this case, is showing first of all the navigation, then the main content, right? Once that is ready, the user can start to interact, and then the page is still loading. But anyway, the user feels like, okay, this is done. I can start already using this. There are so many techniques about how to improve performance, how to catch the right files, right? But I really want you to share this one because it's a little bit behind creating a service worker. It's more like a concept, and it's even related with design. So keep in mind this, okay? And then I have a few resources for you. Basically, we create your first PWA cold lab, right? We're using Glitch. And then we are also doing a bunch of stuff related with Samsung Internet with PWAs. Actually, last year, we were able to mention that people can publish their PWAs in Galaxy Store. And we are still checking which are the results of that. So if you want to build a PWA, it doesn't matter if it's with whatever framework or something like that, and you want to go into our Galaxy Store. Sadly, it's just in the US, but anyway, if it's in the US and it's also something that we are able to put in the market, I think it's something good. We want to hear a lot of feedback of people trying to build a better user experience into the browser, right? And one of my main resources is MDN, the developer Mozilla documentation. And besides that, I know that we have so many options related of progressive web apps and even web. And every time that we have to use a service worker, create a manifest file, even though it's cross-browser, we have to test our progressive web app in those different vendors. So the W3C is doing great efforts to actually keep standards related with the manifest. So keep an eye on that. And then the last book that I want to share with you is The Progressive Web Apps, a book apart by Jason Grigsby. Those are the main things that I want to share with you. Alrighty, so my final message, right? Even though there's still a lot of things around progressive web apps, and what's gonna happen? Is it gonna be in the store? Are we gonna be able to monetize our apps, or etc., etc., etc.? This is my personal opinion. I believe like doing progressive web apps, I mean, having HTTPS or catch the right files, taking care of your experience offline, and having a manifest file, those are good practices. So if you already have a website, I believe that you possibly should have these 3 features. Okay, so again, this is all about having happy users, happy developers. Remember to follow the standards. And if you have any feedback about your PWA or something that you find out, it doesn't matter which framework you're using. This is something general that if we are building websites, or if we are developers, we can actually use. So yeah, and let me see if I'm able to see myself.
Yeah, so thank you. So it was nice. So I have a sudden question to ask you, that why to go with PWA? So rather than going with a native.
So yeah, currently what I would say is if you already have a website, you have to have a PWA, right? And if you are not doing certain kind of complex things around different features or whatever, for example, content or something like that, I will definitely go into PWAs. One thing that I want to mention anyway is that it's not like PWAs against native apps. I think both they can really exist together because we can have different types of users. And the amount of effort that you have to do building a PWA is completely less, right? Again, if you are, maybe we have some native developers, Android or iOS, and there's such an amount of work around building your app and then put it into the store and then try to figure out how the users can keep using your app, right? Because at the end you want that those users keep using your product. So, but with web, for example, we have Pinterest, Twitter that actually have improved the users' retention, just having the chance to the users to open the browser and just use their app, right? Again, if it's something more related with content, if you already have a website, try to follow the standards, take care of your users offline, and that's completely fine. If you, in terms of when not, and when it's like, okay, my native app is completely stronger than a PWA, it's especially in those huge e-commerce, let's say like eBay or something like that, I would say, because there, if the architecture is not like an SPA, right? The effort around and the departments that everybody's working is not the same. So I would say that native apps and PWA can coexist, right? And I think like we are in a time that actually we can say what's gonna happen later, because recently Samsung was able to push apps into the Galaxy Store, PWAs, and then there's something going on around TWA and the Play Store. So let's see what happens. But I think like once developers can start sharing their apps in the store, monetizing and giving the chance to actually have PWAs as first citizens is going to be great. But yeah.
Okay. And moreover, there is a native script also of the Angular part. So that is related with the PWA, or it is a different framework?
No, it's a different
Okay.
framework.
So which one is better? So PWA or a native script?
No, those are different things. Native script is also a way to let's say it's like Flutter or or it's other framework, right? PWA is not a framework. It's just a website with a few features, right? Like even if you have something in native script, maybe you can add HTTPS, or this is, you have the features and then you have the native script, right? It's kind of comparing, okay, what should we do, React Native or PWAs? It all depends, but at the end, those are different things.
Okay. So I'm asking you about the out of topics. So can you say that how is the IT market over there, about the place where you are working on?
Yes, so here, well, we're working with Samsung, and in this case, we are doing a lot of research because it's the research department. So one of our focus is the web, right? And we want to know what's going to happen with PWAs. So currently, we work with other vendors like Edge, like Firefox, right? And it seems that we're trying to push web into a better use for developers. So there's also in the other side, we have the Google Chrome team that has Project Fugu. If you never heard about that, is also to bring components of mobile devices into the web, right? So it seems like we are trying to connect the web with with native apps, right? But it's still in a certain kind of field that we need to check what's gonna happen. And besides that, I'm based in London. London is one of the places that you can see and feel. Actually, it's pretty busy. What's going on with the market? Facebook, Google, most of the big companies are here. Also, it's good for startups. Yeah, there's so many things going on around there. So if you have the chance to take a look into what's happening in London in terms of tech, right? And see and check the different trends, I think is one of the main places where you can see the trending around Europe, especially.
Okay. Okay. So there are lots of questions to ask you, but we have a time limit. So your last question that I want to ask you about that, please can you suggest to the student who is building their career that what point they need to be considered while studying or while building their career?
Well, yes. So I would say, first of all, try to find a topic that you really like and focus into that, right? I think like, especially as developers and people that is in tech, we have so many options. And I believe that what makes different from somebody that is an expert or something that is a little bit recognized is that they focus into one thing, right? And then make the most of that thing. So yeah, I will say, and of course, try to enjoy that, right? In my case, at that moment was Firebase. I'm a GD for Firebase, so I started to, before working for Samsung and doing other stuff. I've been doing a lot of consulting. I've been working with startups. But yeah, give a try with the things that you really like and focus into that one, because we have so many options, and I think that will make you an expert.
Okay. Okay. So overall, you need to be the best of all. Yeah.
Yeah, give your best always.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
even though sometimes you're not able to see my slides, you have to go for it.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Anyway,
that.
yeah, no problem. Anyway, I'm gonna share my slides. I gave my Twitter. Feel free to keep in touch, and also any feedback. If you have any ideas about PWAs, and are you a little bit curious about what's happening around, let us know. We have actually another department in India. Also, we were talking really closer with them. We really take care of that market. I'm really interested because I know that there's a lot of offline options and PWAs happening there. So yeah, let me know what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So thanks. It was a wonderful presentation.